Yeah, just go on my page and you'll see it.
For sure.
But yeah, that's why I didn't select any. That's why like I have quotes from other poets and like well known poets and stuff. But I wanted to make sure that I was using like historians, journalists, and had Lupe write. I had asked Lupe to write the forward, and she agreed. So I was very happy about that. But like I wanted to get like people that were like not necessarily artists because I wanted the book to be thought of in a certain kind of light. Okay, I think we are live. Cool.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. All right, we're joined this hour by a man of many hats and a couple names. Marco Octavio Rafael Amaral Valencia. We're really, really excited to be talking to you this hour, Marco. Can you tell us?
Yo, likewise, likewise.
Thank you. Can you tell us? We want to talk about you as you're an educator, you're an organizer, you're now a school board member. We want to talk about how it kind of got started. I want to tell. Can you tell us a little bit about your educational journey and how it all began?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess my educational journey really started in Las Vegas. I grew up in East Las Vegas, and I don't know if you know this, but for many years, Clark County School District, which is where Las Vegas is at, is widely considered, regarded as the worst school district in the country, um, by many regards, and so I was brought up into that system. My mom's a housekeeper at the Excalibur, has been a housekeeper for the casinos for a quarter of a century, for over a quarter of a century. My father worked in construction, and so really, in my house, that we say that la educación se mama primero en casa. You know what I mean? Like, so education is first learned at home, and that very cultural education. And so I grew up in a very, very much Mexican, Black community, and that was truly my first uprising. You know what I mean? Hanging out with the homies, hanging out with the neighborhood kids. I grew up in apartments, and just learning things of that along that nature. I never got anything past a C in elementary school. I didn't get anything past B minus in middle school, and so in Las Vegas, things weren't going that well, right? And so my parents, they said, "Yo, your siblings, they live out here in San Diego. I was born out here in San Diego, and why don't you do you want to move over there with them?" And so, uh, you know, I was like, had mixed feelings about it. I was gonna leave my friends, and at that age, at 14, you're like, oh, your whole world's gonna end if you move. But ultimately, I decided to move out here to San Diego. Moved in with my oldest brother. Went out to Mar Vista High. Shout out to the Mariners. Graduated. Did pretty well. I managed to get the Gates Millennium Scholarship. So fortunately, I got a full ride to the college that would accept me. I then went on to go to Berkeley for 4 years. At UC Berkeley, I studied international relations, political science. Um, I did lots of concentrations on political economics, lots of it on Chicano studies, um, and in general, like the intersection of economics and politics. Right, that was my biggest focus, and really on an international level. At Berkeley, that's where I got lots of my teachings on internationalism, on socialism, on the movement. Um, During my second year at Berkeley, I was part of a 10-day hunger strike. Um, and I was really part of that whole generation of the mass movements for public education at the UC and CSU level, from 2008 to 2012. Occupy Berkeley kicked off during that time as well. The whole Occupy Wall Street movement in general, that was formidable to my years. We had a whole bunch of movements that that happened during that time at Berkeley. Um, I think the number one thing that I learned from all that is that in Berkeley there's a phrase. It goes, "Everybody's a liberal until you get hit by a cop." Right. And so I I learned that real quick. I learned that real quick. And I remember the first time, man, the first time that a cop seriously injured me at Berkeley, and then put me, behind bars for a night. Um, there would be many times after that, but it's true. You know, your politics resemble very much your experiences in this system, right? And also, and people are able very much to learn, and people are able to analyze, and people are able to grow, and reflect, and definitely see themselves beyond their experiences, right? And see themselves in a political dynamic beyond their experiences. But there is a lot of truth to your experiences having a huge, deep impact on your politics, right? And let me tell you, if you were to get hit as many times, by the police, and be sent, behind bars as many times as I have by the police, then the words, "fuck the police," are just going to come out super fluidly through your mouth, right? But not just because of those experiences, but of what those experiences teach you, right? It's not about the bruises, it's not about the hits, it's not about the times behind bars, right? You really get to learn systemically what this institution, in this example, what this institution means, right, on a greater scale, right? And so the term "fuck the police" becomes more than just a rebellious rallying cry, right? A term like "fuck the police," right, becomes truly a symbol of a beautiful world to come, right? And I think those are the things, and those are the types of teachings that I learned very, very much so in my undergraduate career. Um, and that goes through many things, right? My experiences with our indigenous sisters and brothers, my experiences in being an accomplice to our Black sisters and brothers, and in different struggles. And so those are the things that I really, learned at Berkeley. And and I would feel, personally hurt by myself if I didn't say that the number one thing that I learned, besides political science, besides economics, besides, my love towards being just a nerd, the number one thing that you truly get to learn in a space that you put all your humanity in is the importance of love as a primary source of fuel towards a revolutionary journey. You know what I mean? Um, and and I think that is what captivates, I think, a lot of how I went about my life after Berkeley. Um, After Berkeley, I attended the University of San Diego. I got my master's in special education. After Berkeley, I lived in Nevada for 1 year, and due to love, honestly, due to love and the love of towards my partner, Arcelia Magaña, due to the love that I have towards her and my family and education in general, I moved back over here to San Diego. Um, and I eventually got my master's, like I said, in special education. I became a special education teacher. I've been a special education teacher now. This is my 4th year. Before that, I was an instructional assistant in special education. And in this career as a teacher, and in my learnings as a pedagogue, right, in education, you know, I wanna backtrack a bit and talk about an experience that I had at USD, at the University of San Diego. After USD, I had the opportunity to become a super fellow. And basically, it's this fellowship, right, in collaboration with the University of San Diego and other NGOs, right, from around the world that work together that I'm not too fond of, right? But they basically, right, I mean, honestly, I can say that's a whole segment in itself, all these NGOs, right, that go around the world and with their savior complexes and whatnot. But I got an opportunity to go out to Bolivia. I was out there for 3 months. Um, there out there in Bolivia, being out there with the Quechua community, with the Aymara community, learning from that community directly, learning about what it means to be a revolutionary pedagogue, to believe in liberation. Um, it blew my mind. It changed my life forever. Um, I'll give you an example of, for example, of the education when it comes to like environmental justice, right? I was in the bathroom in this elementary school. I was doing some research at this elementary school, and I went to the restroom and I was washing my hands, and I grabbed two pieces of paper, right, to dry my hands off, and I grab them and I throw them in the trash. And then this little girl, she couldn't have been more than 6 years old. She pulls out my shirt and she says, "No, con Guaira." And I'm like, "What?" And the teacher explains to me that the little girl is trying to tell me that, yo, you only grab one piece of paper at most, right? Grab one piece of paper, the rest, the air's got your back, dog. Like, just do it with the air. You know what I mean? Like, why do you need two? Right? And this is a 6-year-old, right, teaching me these lessons, right, of consumption, right? These lessons of taking more than I need, right, from Mother Earth. And those are lessons that I didn't learn at Berkeley. Those are lessons that I didn't learn at USD. But those are the things that you learn from experiences and from people that are maybe more in tune to the needs of our Pache, of our Mother Earth, than you are, right? And so, those are truly the educational experiences of my life that I value very much so. And currently, I'm starting my PhD at USD at the same institution. I'm getting my PhD in social justice education, and this will be my first year. I'm excited for it. I recently became a Ditchley Fellow. I was supposed to go out to Oxford this summer to go debate among other scholars around the world on like the economic times, right, that we're in, and the radical solutions that are needed for the times that we're in. But because of COVID-19 and all the craziness that's happening, that got canceled. So I'm here, distance learning, and trying to provide my students with the best educational outcomes that I can, given the times. But more than anything, trying to provide my students with justice during this time, because I think justice is far more important than them understanding, what's the importance of mitochondria, because I teach biology.
So you mentioned growing up in Vegas in a part of the town where the cops are probably pretty rough, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah, most
it's
definitely.
not until you get to Berkeley that the cops beat you up, right?
Yeah, and but it wasn't the first time that I experienced police brutality. It was the first time I experienced police brutality on me.
Right.
Yeah, and this goes into the dynamics. Honestly, this goes into the dynamics of, in my community, being the lightest skin fool there. Like, you look at, I have a group of 5 friends that we're like soul brothers, right? I'm the lightest motherfucker there, but I can tell you that each one of them had experiences with the police, right, and with law enforcement that are starkly different from my growing up,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
What I meant to say, I was just going to say, can you speak a little bit to, we get to that too, but what caught my ear was that you're describing, growing up in this black and brown community, and then, and it Berkeley, where you're assaulted by the cops. So can you speak a little bit to the myth of what Berkeley is supposed to be like? Because in Berkeley,
Oh shit.
all of us think of this like, the
This
people.
bastion of
Yeah,
liberalism, this hope on the mountain spring. You know what I
can you
mean?
build
Like,
expectations reality kind of picture for us?
yo, Berkeley is among the most racist institutions in the country. Okay, Berkeley, Berkeley, it is considered the flagship public institution of California, in a state that 6, 7 out of 10 people is a person of color. You got at Berkeley less than a third of the population are black and brown. um, and it's just insane. It's institutionally racist, but it's also overtly racist. The things that it allows its fraternities and sororities to get away with has been historically criminal. The way it attacks ethnic studies, gender women studies, Native American studies, African American studies, uh, is truly like it's disgusting. And these are long lasting systemic attacks, right? And we need to understand that an institution like Berkeley, right? It's history of civil rights. It's true of free speech. Yes, it's true, but it's also overtly romanticized. And it's part of the imagery and the selling point that the institution wants you to believe in, right? But once you go there, you fully grasp and understand that it's very far from that. Um, and at Berkeley, in this institution of liberalism, this institution of progress, right, is where I saw, I saw police break, kids' skulls open, right? In this institution of progress is where I saw the administration allow fraternities to hang nooses from trees, right? And the list goes on and on. In this institution of progress, right, is where I saw Zionism, right, and racism towards our Palestinian sisters and brothers like I haven't seen anywhere else, right? And so the list honestly can go on and on about that, but there's a lot of shining, incredible human beings at Berkeley as well, right? I mean, beyond the institution itself, but we can't separate the reality though.
Isn't the Hoover Institute at Berkeley?
What's our?
The Hoover Institute at Berkeley, or is it maybe it's Stanford?
Oh no.
John Woo came out of Berkeley though, right?
Yes, yeah, yup.
Yeah.
That fool came out of Berkeley. Yup. Yeah, man, and then you also, right, you also at Berkeley, you have people that have the prospect of truly changing shit up, right? But then you also get people like that are well-known liberals like Robert Reich, right? That in a very intelligent way they suppress these movements,
Yeah.
right? They suppress these movements, and instead of uplifting them and really helping them create the institutional change that we need, right? It says let's take it slowly, let's take it one step at a time, everybody, while our opposition, they're taking it 3-4 steps at a time, right? And we got liberals like Robert Reich over here telling us, nah, one step at a time, everybody, one step at a time, right? And so Berkeley is full of those people. But again, we had to have learned these ideas from some people, right? So Berkeley also has some incredible human beings as well. But yeah, Janet Napolitano was the president of the UC system, man. You know what I mean? Like the woman that was in charge of putting the first round of people in cages, the woman that was in charge of over 2 million deportations, right, under Obama, that woman became the president of the UC system, right? I mean, these are the people that we're dealing with. You know what I mean? Like even in these progressive spaces.
Right. So I mean, I'm not trying to shit on Berkeley grads. I'm just trying to
Right.
in the context.
No, shit on us, dog. Shit on us. It's all good.
So Berkeley grads have this tendency, right?
Yeah.
UCLA grads have it too.
Yeah.
And it's this weird tendency to be on stage and be like, you see me, man? I was born in Pico Union.
Oh, yes, so true.
Right? And then afterwards, you talk to them, hey, what's up, man? And they're like, oh, yeah.
So true.
Maybe we'll try to get you a Cal. Maybe. We'll see. All of a sudden, like, they get really elitist. This thing on stage.
Yeah.
Where it's like, where it's very much like they seem very approachable. They're like they're like kind of like a, I don't say, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, performing approachability or something. But there's a kind of this weird thing that I don't know what
Yeah.
it is. And I don't blame anybody individuals. If you're all doing the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Right. But no, it's true. It's true.
Well,
It's
it's like
it's
an echo
true.
chamber type effect. But like I noticed this is that there's a tendency, particularly from UCLA and UC Berkeley, because they are the high end, they are the prestige UC schools, right?
Right.
That there's this tendency to have this kind of weird like I'm approachable, I'm just like you, there's no difference, and then when you talk to them one on one, all of a sudden like UCLA and Berkeley comes up, and it's not. I'm not saying like oh they're really insecure. It's because it's not an individual thing. It's like happens time and time and time again. So there's something about these schools
Yeah.
that
Let
teaches
me
you to do this.
no, let me actually talk on that
Yeah.
and it has a lot to do with what how we're like indoctrinated as brown folk in that institution, right? For better or for worse. But let me run real quick to get my charger and shit because my computer's about to die. Give me a second. All right. So check this out. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I remember one of my first like welcomings, right? As a freshman at Berkeley. And I remember this professor, Professor Zaragoza. Um, he came to the welcoming, and the first thing he tells us, he says, "You, all of you, todas y todos, ustedes son la creme de la
Oh,
creme de la creme." Right? That like those were like the first words we heard.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then also right because of the racist admission policies that exist, right? The other line that they tell us, right, coming in is right, right, it wasn't a mistake that you are here, right? Affirmative action doesn't exist anymore, right? You are here because right you like deserve it. You beat out. You are smarter than
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z people, right? Like it is not a mistake that you are here, right? And
Yeah.
so, but the line that they sometimes that they forget to tell us, right, is that it's a mistake that more of us aren't here. You know what I mean?
I don't know if that's a mistake either, but like yeah, but yeah.
No, yeah,
I'm
right,
sorry.
I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um, but so from the very first days at being at Berkeley, from the moment you're accepted, right, you are very much babied into believing, right, that you are the fucking shit and your shit don't fucking stink,
Right.
right? And it's hard. It's hard for many of us to like get out of that like mindset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, especially when you're coming out of a situation where everyone's always questioning your intelligence, where you're like not supposed to this, and you're accused of
Right,
get high scores on tests and that.
right.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it makes sense, but like I don't know. I mean, like this gets into like my own subjectivity, right? Because then it's like I don't like people who um who shine their own apples on the basis of groups they're a part of.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Like I don't give a shit. Like what
mm-hmm,
do you do? Like like show me
mm-hmm.
Yeah, book. I mean, like you have something I can read. You have, you have an argument, a
Mm-hmm.
presentation. I'm always
Mm-hmm.
interested in what the individual person can have. But that's my own. That's my own
Mm-hmm.
way. But I'm really
Mm-hmm.
interested in talking about this question about of of how do you get over that mentality of because it becomes kind of a savior mentality. It becomes the kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
I am the one who made it. I am the one who will teach you. I am the one who will um, show you how you can be like me, leave your community and soar and have a happy ending. A goodwill hunting ending where you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you drive
Yeah.
off in the car.
Yeah. Hella. Yeah. Yeah. I feel you.
Um,
Um.
how do you over that? How do you overcome that mentality? How come that, or how come like why did you have like kryptonite, or why did you have like sunblock? Why did it just bounce off you?
Yeah. Some would say, and I hear them, and I reflect on this very constantly, man, because as a socialist, as an internationalist, as a person that openly criticizes and fights towards a true revolutionary transformation of where I live and how I live. Um, it's difficult. You know what I mean? It's you fight with. There's a lot of internal battles, man. There's a lot of internal battles. You have to deny yourself many many incredible fruits that capitalism tries to give you. You know what I mean? Um, it could have been very easy for me to, like, once I won this school board position,
Yeah,
right? Could have been very easy to me to, like, rub shoulders with the superintendent that makes more than the governor of California, right? And it would have been super easy for me to, like, just play nice with all these rich folk,
yeah,
right? And go to the galas and to the dinners and to the banquets, right? With all these other politicians and shit. Uh, that would have been super easy, and it would have been super fun, right? Like, right?
yeah,
Like, for real, like, yo,
yeah,
you've been to these places. They got some bomb food, some free fucking beer and like whiskey and shit, some good, like good shit, dog.
yeah.
Like, like, but but that is honestly how they get you, right? And
Cheese with the fine cheese.
oh yeah, with the fine
That
cheese,
brie.
dog. Yeah, for real. For real, and so for me, it's always been about one. I've always told myself, I remember in high school, right? Like a teacher, several teachers, several adults telling me, yo, like, how you're thinking right now is just a phase, right? You're going to grow out of it, right? Once you get older, everyone becomes more conservative, right? So part of me, like, a part of my soul, my essence is always fighting against, like, those adults, right? From my youth, right? And kind of like the continuation of those voices throughout my life, right? Um, and then the other part of me is 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 making these cost benefit analysis in my head of happiness, and I'm asking myself, during what moments in my life have I actually felt full and happy, right? Has it been in the moments when I'm, like, in a suit, right, out on, like on a boat somewhere, eating some fine ass cheese, right? That's just tight. It happened. That's a good story, right?
I believe it.
You know what I mean? Is that the moment where I'm like, fuck, right? Or is it like, or is it the moment where, like, I'm part of this collective organizing body that just confronted, 50 police officers and was able to take over this freeway, right, to provide some sense of justice towards ex family, right? And that, like, that feeling of collective righteousness, right? And anger and fulfillment, right? And I do those cost benefit analysis in my head, and I weigh them out, and to me, it always comes back to a no brainer, right? The happiness, the fulfillment, that I get the most out of, right, is in working towards a new world, not in regurgitating and perpetuating, right, the same shit that we have today with more flowered and different words, right? And so to me, it's really been about like about being happy. And I find more happiness in the struggle, in the thought of being part of a revolutionary, collective, a revolutionary generation, right, than I do about like the happiness that is very square, right, like very like been there, done that, like we see that already, right? And so to me, that the feeling of when I was a kid, and the adults telling me, right, this is just a phase. Two, what makes me happy? But three, how do I then check myself? How do I put a check and a balance on myself, right? Because there's already been like some, not friends, I wouldn't call them friends, but I would say how do you say amistades in English? um, friend, acquaintances, right? There's already been some acquaintances, right, that have already like rode me off, right, for better or for worse, right? Have already been like, man, that fool is an elected official. That fool is a fucking politician, right? Like, fuck that guy, right? Um, and I hear them. I hear those voices, right? I pay attention to them. I reflect on them. Um, but how do I know that what they're saying is not true, right? I keep myself grounded in collective work, right? I keep myself grounded in the grassroots with people that I know will call me the fuck out at any moment that I truly falter, right? And honestly, that scares the shit out of me, right? So I have created a circle of friends and a circle of organizations, right, that I know, are revolutionary organizations and revolutionary people that are principled and committed to that, to me, not to me, but to the struggle, but to the fight, right? And they understand, right, that they figuratively speaking, they have my balls, right? Like, and as a public official, right, as an elected representative, I acknowledge that, right? I understand who I who I serve, right? I understand full well, right, what I committed myself to. When I ran for school board, I ran on what what to many have said is the first openly decolonial revolutionary campaign in San Diego. I was out there speaking in groups of people. I was out there speaking, to neighbors, to over 7,000 doors I knocked on, telling people like, I am pushing for a revolutionary, transformative platform, right? What does that look like? Well, tangibly, that looks like ethnic studies under women's studies at the K-8 level. Like, let's go beyond college. Let's go beyond as a high school requirement. Like, why are we not teaching like our youngsters, right, our babies, about their cultura, about where they come from, about who they are, about them finding that, right? So that people don't have to like, you know, learn about that they actually had a history at the age of 16 or 17, right? That they can actually know that, they are somebody from a very early age. Um, to me, that means that we have school board members, and me as a school board member, that doesn't just say, we're going to advocate for our kids and for education through letter writing campaigns or through these really nice meetings with our representatives, right? No, like, we're going to organize our community. We're always knock on those doors, and we're going to be telling our representatives, right? Like, it's either you do as we say, right, or we'll burn the house down, right? Um, and the other two things that I fought for and am fighting for, is for a world-class special education system. As a special education teacher, as someone that has a brother with disabilities, Um, I the struggle of the disabilities struggle is something that comes dear to my heart, and so that's something that I will fight for as long as I need to. People with disabilities are probably the most disenfranchised group of people living in this on this earth currently. Once you put on other intersections of gender, sex, race, right, the problems become even more exponential. And then third, I fought on a class conscious platform. I told the unions as a teacher myself, right? I remember going to the teacher endorsement meeting, and I looked at all the teachers and I said, "Yo, look, I'm a teacher, right? I'm not I'm not here telling you that you should, endorse me as your candidate because I'm a teacher. I'm going to be fighting with all my might all day, every single day, right? So that we can live in a school district, so that we can work in a school district that brings justice to our jobs. And what does that mean economically? That means that a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, a deputy superintendent, right? A CFO or whoever, right, of the district should not be making $300,000, $320,000, $290,000, right, a year when we have custodians, right, that are barely getting by, that are that had to work 2-3 jobs, right? Um, and calling that out publicly and not being afraid of the repercussions, right? Political or social or whatnot, just calling it out publicly. And so for me, right, that's been very instrumental. I can go into details as to like already the gains that we've had, but I don't want to make this just about like me as a school board member and whatnot. But I just want to tell people out there, right, that running an openly revolutionary, leftist, liberation-centered campaign for public office does resonate with people. It can win regardless of what the Democratic Party tells you, right? Um, these things are popular, and I think it's important for people to know that, because there's lots of people who think to themselves that like, oh, I can never win on these ideas, right? And that's just tangibly not true. Yeah.
Well, I'm really interested in this idea though about like taking this like experience and how you interpret it and how you like relay it back, right? Because like it's one thing to say, so three different statements. Because I know the Oxford thing fell through, but let's say it hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
Or you just reschedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you reschedule it. So this time next year, you say,
Right.
my parents are working class. I spoke at Oxford. That's one statement.
Right.
My parents are working class, but I spoke at Oxford, and so can you.
Mm-hmm.
Another statement.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are working class. I spoke at Oxford, and Oxford ain't shit. That's the third statement, right? And they all have different meanings. They all have different
Right. They all
like.
have different meanings.
So which camp would you find yourself in? One, two.
Um,
I don't want to jeopardize your Oxford.
no, 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 no. Like shout out to all the folk at Oxford. Fuck Oxford. Like, yeah.
Sir, I've spoken to Cambridge,
Oh shit. Oh shit.
and I'll tell you,
Damn.
Cambridge ain't shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I got attacked by decolonized Cambridge out there, and I got like, because I was like, how do you decolonize Cambridge? The fuck we talking about here? And like, yeah, and there was a lot of stupid things I saw there. I also got a chance to check out Harvard one time.
Mm-hmm.
I saw they had this weird. I wasn't speaking, but I was there for another reason. But like, I saw this like weird like thing they had, and it was like these like what do you call it? Like in high school when you have to like a collage. It was like a kind of collage, a little fancier, and it said a collage of mixed race people, and it said these pictures of people like this person's Filipino and black, this person's Mexican and Chinese, this person like
Yeah.
what the fuck am I looking at? And like you said, I had their stories, right, and that was Harvard. So I mean, these places are not. I don't know. I'm not impressed. So,
Nah, no,
like,
no, I'm not impressed at all, right? Like Like if I'm ever invited to any freaking bastion of fucking of white supremacy, like Oxford or fucking even Berkeley or Harvard,
Yeah.
right? If it like I'm gonna take the opportunity to say burn this motherfucker down. Right? Like I'm gonna like you do not know who you're inviting, or you do know who you're inviting, right? And that's okay too, right? Like but but uh but yeah, like to me, right, I'm truly my head, my vision, my heart, my soul is centered on on creating a different world, right? And you know, the line is known now around the world, right, as the Zapatistas would say, right, a world where many worlds can exist. You know what I mean? Like, and so, and so to me, that's my, you know, that's my line. That's where I'm at. That's my steady course. Um, and you know, I think the future looks promising, and not just on a personal note. You know what I mean? Not just on a personal note, but I truly do see. Who said it? I think it was Roy, or who said it, that you know COVID-19 is a portal. Um, you know, there's going to be millions of unfortunate deaths to all this, due to parasitic capitalism. Um, Not even to the actual virus itself, but directly related to uh, the comorbidity of capitalism and the virus,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so, but I truly do believe that we are currently in the midst of a revolutionary epic, of a revolutionary moment in our collective story. And I and I don't know how it's going to look and whatnot, but I know it's coming. Um, and I think I say that from a very from not just a you know very uh, optimistic kind of point of view or whatever. No, like I'm saying, it's gonna be you know it's gonna hurt. It's gonna look bad. It's I'm not glorifying you know none of what is to come, right? I don't think it's gonna be pleasant, right? I think it's gonna be fucking horrible, actually. The years that are to come, um, but I think that this will also provide us the vehicle and the avenue to organize our communities, and to organize ourselves, and to really pull up, you know, our own convictions and our own heartstrings, to bring about the world that we deserve.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, I know, I completely agree with that. I mean, after the revolution, we will throw our resumes to the fire. But in the meantime, there is something about the credibility that comes with having walked through this Ivy Tower. That having,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to like, I don't necessarily mean to like other halls of power. I mean, like,
Right.
say like, I am telling you that those places are not special. That those people are not special. Those individuals that walk through there, even the ones of you that are gonna walk through there, are not special.
Hmm.
You know, there's nothing so special about.
There really isn't. There really
Yeah,
isn't.
four walls. These are four walls, and any information I convey to you or you convey to me can is valid or unique or whatever. Is there's no sorcery that goes
Hmm.
on here. Like there's
Hmm.
I'm literally, I mean, and I know this, and I can tell you this because I've spoken at Cambridge, like
Hmm.
for real. Like I
Hmm.
spent a week speaking at Cambridge. I talked
Hmm.
at Cambridge. I gave speeches. I sat in on speeches. Some were interesting, and some were horrible. Some of the most ridiculous, like nonsensical things I've ever heard in my life. I
Hmm.
mean, like it's like I was at one where this guy was talking about how it was called the activation of Islam in Syria, and it was about how Muslims. All I got was there was Muslims in Syria. There were more Muslims, and things were getting more Muslim by the day. There was nothing tangible. There was
Hmm.
nothing specific, and it was like I'm not going to
Hmm.
venture to say what Islam is, but Islam is being activated. It was like it was drifting further and further away from material reality. And his final conclusion was that in Syria they care more about religion than in Tunisia, where they cared more about class. And like I'm like, okay, well, when did you observe this? Oh, was it in a time period where there was like, you know, people throwing Molotovs in the street in Tunisia, you know, fighting the rich versus a time in Syria when there was like an ethnic civil war? Like, oh, you know, like, but that was Cambridge, you know.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so the point I'm trying to make, you know, I'm not trying to talk about my trip to Cambridge, but the point is that when you do that, and when you have done that, and with you much more than me, I mean, you had an education at Berkeley, you can come back and demystify these things.
Mm-hmm.
You can come
Mm-hmm.
back and say that no, this is not only are these institutions not above you, but these institutions are ludicrous.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. most most definitely, man. We have a very warped and we have a very warped sense of what education is and what higher education should be. um, and I would say that institutions like Berkeley, right, are doing more of a disservice, right, to justice orientated education than an actual service to it, uh, by its pure existence. You know what I mean? And so when I say, right, like Berkeley ain't shit or fuck Berkeley, right? It's not like it's not, you know, this, like just like fuck it just to for the sake of fucking Berkeley, like no, 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 no. Like it's about what it represents and what it actually tangibly does, right? And also how it in the greater scheme of things, how it perpetuates, right, this parasitic system that we're currently living through, right? um and and so and so to me, that's what truly it is about. Like it's not about, like, screw that brick over there. That brick, has no life to it, right? Like that brick has no, like, freaking actual, like, right. But so I think people, like you said, like, need to understand that Berkeley ain't shit, right? UCLA ain't shit, like, um but at the same time, right, unfortunately, because, like, of the education system that we currently are in, right, those institutions do have, right, far more resources and far more portals, right, if you will, right, that will lead you to, right, than other institutions, right. You truly have to work harder, right, if you're a San Diego State student, right, if you're a CSU LA student, right. You do have to work a lot harder than the UC Berkeley student, right. And that just comes with the name, right. And I think this is something that UC Berkeley students, even the revolutionary ones, the justice oriented ones, this is something that we constantly fail to mention, right. How we perpetuate these, like, very gross hierarchies, right. And how and many of us, we I think very few of us would actually publicly admit, right, that we're okay with a CSU Northridge student being seen as academically, at par with us,
Yeah.
right.
Well, okay. So I'll give you an example though. Like I saw someone like write a dissertation. Some even even worse than Berkeley, Stanford. Someone wrote this dissertation at Stanford where it was like they said it was essentially like media coverage of Mendez versus Westminster, something like that. And it wasn't
Mhm.
bad, but the way they were talking about it at Stanford was like, "This is groundbreaking work. This nobody ever blah blah blah. Oh my god!" Right? And
Mhm.
like that's the most like you picked like the most famous case whatever, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Right. Right.
I'm not criticizing anybody, but the way that the other people, the way the white people at Stanford were talking about this groundbreaking, never before. No one's heard about this. We at Stanford have
Mhm.
uncovered this, that, the other, right? And then
Mhm.
Stanford says
Mhm.
that, and then they talk to the CGUs or something like that, the Claremonts, and then the Claremonts, say something to Brown, and Brown says something to Harvard, and where nobody knows this information. If you try to present that as like groundbreaking material at Cal State Northridge, you hey everyone, Chicano State, Cal State Northridge. I got this. Have you ever heard of Mendez versus Westminster?
Yes. Yes. People are like, bruh, like, are you a freshman or what? Like, what the fuck?
Talking about. And so that's how I feel about like Stanford and all these like that's
Yeah.
how I feel about these places. It's like
Yeah.
this is so 101. I mean, I remember seeing someone
Right.
from Harvard and they said something about you know, I don't know, I asked them a question like, hey, so why, can you go into a little bit about why um Operation Wetback overlaps with the Bracero program, right? So it seems like a
Right.
really controlled population.
Right, right.
And you know his answer to it? It was like, that's a very good question, but I don't want to get into the weeds. Like, this is fucking Harvard, and you don't want to get into the weeds of answering a question about
Yeah.
immigration. So that was kind of, and then somebody else asked a question, and they literally said this, and it's never left me. They got up and said, I don't know anything about illegal immigrants. I don't know why people come here. And that was a student of Harvard.
Yeah.
So these are very
Yeah.
unimpressive places to me. I don't know.
That's that. Yeah, that's the yo. Like moments like that, and shit, like in scenarios like that, right? I'm sure. I'm sure you can tell me another dozen, and I can tell
Yeah,
you
yeah,
too
sure,
another
sure.
dozen as well. You're like, yeah, and so I think it's super important to continue to tell those stories to our communities, to our students, and whatnot, so that independently of where they end up, right, at CSU Northridge or at the community college, or right, or like working at their Dios taller, right? Like that these fools ain't shit. You know what I mean? Like these fools ain't shit, these institutions ain't shit, right? And then explain to them what that means, right? Like that like a student from Stanford, right, or from Harvard or from Berkeley, right, has to learn about very real life things, right, that you've been experiencing since you were 4 or 5,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And for them, right, that's like, learning some magical world out there, right? And when in reality, right, that's an everyday occurrence for many of us, right? And so like you said, like we glorify we glorify freaking what is it, the mediocrity, what is that, what's that phrase, right? Like, give me the strength to be as mediocre as a white man or something like that,
I
right?
have confidence. Confidence is
Yeah,
mediocre.
yeah,
Yeah,
give me the confidence of a mediocre white man, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
give me and so I think there's a lot of that.
yeah,
There's a lot of that, right? And I think those are the things that it's really important for us to to elaborate.
yeah. So I mean, I don't want to. We could spend like a whole hour just telling stories, but like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
the dynamics of those stories, I think are very, very important for people. It really, very, very important to demystify these
yeah.
things. You know, because like you're striving for these things. Like I remember I was talking to somebody earlier, and they were talking about how their grandma, like hates the term Chicana, hated the term
Mm,
even Mexican, hated whatever,
mm-hmm.
and didn't even want to be Hispanic, wanted to be American. I
Right,
am American, right? Because
right.
American, but just think about this, right? You may hate the politics, you may think like, oh, this woman is lost, or you may think, oh,
Yeah,
reaction,
yeah,
blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
yeah,
But there's a light at the end of the tunnel of her life, and at the
yeah.
end of the tunnel of her life, she becomes American.
Mm-hmm,
And you're trying to take that away from her. So obviously she gets angry. Obviously
mm-hmm,
she's gonna fight with you. Obviously
mm-hmm.
she's gonna get mad. Now obviously I think she's misguided, misoriented. It's tragic. It's not even like something to be mad at her about, unless she's pouring on you. Then I understand why you're mad. But I understand it, right? That's the light at the end of the tunnel. You become American. So for
Yeah.
a lot of people who would hear your story initially, the light at the end of the tunnel is I'm a Berkeley grad.
Mm-hmm,
Light at the end of the tunnels. I made my parents proud. I went to Berkeley. I went to one of the schools that like I was told I couldn't. I went to
right.
MIT. I went to Brown. I went to Columbia. I went to I achieved this thing that I was not supposed to achieve. That I
Mm-hmm,
was designated not for me. That is the light at the end of the tunnel.
mm-hmm.
And so I get the personal journey dynamics of it, right?
Yeah, right.
But those places aren't shit, and you should have a different light at the end of your tunnel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, right.
Something else.
But
Yeah.
so what's the process? So like right, in Berkeley terms, right? What's like that lady, right, would have a colonized mind, right? Right? She has a colonized mind, right? Colonized mentality.
Mhm.
Um how what's the process of decolonization without is a process of anger necessary in your opinion? Like, do you have to have that angry conversation with that lady? Does she have to get angry in order to get to that process of that not being her light?
I don't know. I mean, that's a tough question. Depends on how invested you are in it, and
Yeah,
what you think she's gonna do, and how I mean, it just depends on your relationship, I suppose. But
yeah,
what I'm talking about is the light at the end of these tunnel for many people that you might encounter now. The light at the end of the tunnel is getting a college education from
yeah,
what is heralded as like the best school. you know, the
Yeah,
best.
yeah,
This is
right,
the best. Like I go to this school, I
yeah,
own that car, I
yeah,
live in that neighborhood.
yeah,
You cannot tell me I am not an excellent, extravagant, amazing person, right? You
right.
cannot tell me that. I look at me. Look at me. I live in this beautiful neighborhood. I drive this beautiful car. Look at those degrees. That's a beautiful degree with a from a beautiful school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Um, and I grew up poor. I
Right,
worked for this and I fought for this.
right,
It's mine.
right,
And you can't take
right,
it away from me. And you better not try and cheapen it with all your
right,
radical talk where everyone is equal and blah, blah. No, everyone's not equal. I work harder than everybody.
right. Put myself on my bootstraps, motherfucker.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
it all turned up. Yeah.
Fuck yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you break them young though? How do you get people out of that mentality? I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Mm-hmm.
self-fulfilling logic. I mean, this if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. So they got this
Mm-hmm.
math in their head. So how do you like give them a different equation, a different mathematical equation, a different way of looking at the
Mm-hmm.
world?
Yeah, I think it has to do with like what world are you happy with the world that we have, right? If so, if you are truly happy with the world that we have, then the math equations are already made for you, right? You have your A, you have your B, you have your C, right? Your goal is to get to your C, right? Through A and B, right? And if you're content with the world, then you're good. You're set to go, right? If you're not content with the world, then let's dive into that. Let's really unscramble that. I'm here like in my teacher hat, right? Like let's unscramble that for a bit, you know, like let's really engage each other for a couple hours as to why you're not content, right, with the world that we live in, right? And then see if your C, if your personal C, right, if your end goal after this reflection, after this conversation, right, is is different from what the world tells you your C goal should be, your light at the end of the tunnel. And if so, if they are different, right, then let's start creating this roadmap. Let's start creating these roadmaps, right? And let's see if our roadmaps, if there's any similarities between them that we can become accomplices in them, right? And I think very often than none, very more often than none, those roadmaps do align, right? The inconformity of even shit, even the inconformity, really, honestly, of uh, of a middle class, lower middle class, white person, right? Um, you will find that they're in conformity, right? That you can work with that inconformity, right? In a collective struggle, right? Towards a more united like world that we want, right? Um, and I think, this comes through pain though. I'm answering my own question earlier. I do feel that there have been many moments in my own life that have been painful. Carlos Munoz, one of my professors at Berkeley, right? He famously he always says to his students, "Yo, education is powerful, but it's more painful too." Like it can be very painful as well, right? Because the second you truly start to question yourself and your decisions and the world and your part and your role in it, you can come up with some very crappy conclusions about yourself, right? And some very crappy conclusions about the decisions that you've made, right? And then from there you have the decision of, okay, who gives a fuck, right? Like whatever, like let's just continue on, right? Or like let me try to make some shifts in my life, right? Wherever that looks like. um and so for me, I try to take a very analytical look at the world that we live in. And I try to really like question myself, right, my own ideology, and ask myself like, yo, Marco, are you thinking about these things only based on a book that you read, right, on ideology, on Marxism, on whatever, on Zapatismo, right? Or are you also like looking realistically at the world you live in, right, and the possible outcomes that are to be, right? And I truly do feel that we are living in a moment, right, where and maybe by a moment, I'm not saying like in the next decade or so. I'm saying that maybe in the next 100 years, in the next 200 years, I still consider it part as part of the political moment, right? But we're living in a moment where the theory, the revolutionary theory, is aligning with the revolutionary praxis, and that praxis, right? That combination of action and theory, right, is something that has been missing very much in our global collective struggles. Um, and so, and I think, the last time that we had something similar, but I think it's even more, I think it's even more enlarged today, but something similar is the Black liberation movements, right? The Black liberation struggles of the 60s and 70s. Um, and there we know what happened. The state, capitalism, killed off dozens and dozens of leaders within a decade, right? From Fred Hampton to X, right, etc. Um, and so, I think that we could be entering into a stage like that. You already see that with the Ferguson protesters, right? With the Ferguson protesters, it's been like a handful, five, I think five or something, 5 or 6 of those leaders that have been killed off, right? Um, and I think that was just a precursor of what is to come. And I think the question is, right, is who are going to be those casualties? What's going to be what's going to be the outcomes of those casualties? Because casualties are going to happen, right? But more than anything, what's going to be the organized, collective, principled movement, right, going forward from that? I think, and I'm not speaking about martyrdom, right? Martyrdom is very different. I'm not even like advocating for martyrdom. I'm not advocating for individuals, right, to go out there and be like, yo, I'm gonna kill myself for the revolution or whatever, right? Like I I have a very I have this very integral feeling, this very rooted feeling based on my organizing, based on my years in organizing, that I don't feel like I've seen a single moment like this one in my own lifetime, and in the past 3 or 4 decades at least, in a historical perspective, and I think 2020 truly will provide us with the portal that we need collectively as a society, and I think that the years to come, man, we're gonna be mowing leaves. We're gonna be mowing leaves of grass. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
yeah,
so, and I just want to give you a shout out, Matt.
yeah,
I've opened up two poems of your book, bruh. Fire, fire, straight up fire, man.
yeah.
Uh, I'll make sure I don't open it again, and I just I'll make sure I just fucking like open the pages and shit, make it look like I've read it through.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know
yeah.
what I mean? What? Like, put it
Appreciate
up
that.
there.
Appreciate that. But
Yeah.
but so, the idea behind mowing this grass though was
Yeah. Tell me.
knocking over what's the canon, or like the cosmology of white supremacy. What's another fancy word? Epistemology, right? How do we
Mm-hmm.
know what kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like if we know what we know based upon the opinions of Walt Whitman, that's gonna put us in
Ooh.
a really bad. That's gonna put us in a bad scenario. So
Oof.
my goal and my idea behind mowing leaves of grass is that Walt Whitman was a very talented guy, but he was a racist. So fuck him. So
Yeah.
I'm also very talented. So follow me.
Yeah.
No, I'm
I
serious. I mean,
yo, I used to when I used to feel like I was the smartest motherfucker on earth as a freshman at Berkeley because I used to quote Walt Whitman all day, every day. It like my ignorant ass in the walls of the old Raza Center, which is now the Raices Center, in Old Eshelman
yeah,
Hall. I freaking wrote a Walt Whitman quote. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Thinking I was like some like smart academic motherfucker. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, but yeah, fuck that fool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I mean, most of the books about like Trump and the current Trump moment and all this kind of stuff like that, But see the thing, and a lot of people, a lot of like liberal type intellectuals think that like Whitman is the answer to Trump, like fight Trump with Whitman. And
Yeah.
my opinion is that I don't make a distinction between the two.
Mm,
I make no distinction between Walt Whitman and Donald Trump
mhm, mhm,
because there's no reason for me to. I mean,
mhm.
Walt Whitman was this. So for those who don't know, I'm not just saying because they're both white men. No, I'm not saying
No,
that.
no, no,
What
no.
I'm saying is Walt Whitman was a big advocate for the Mexican American War. He was like, he really wanted to seize that land. He talked
Mhm,
about in a poem called, I think, From the Palmanic Starting, says, he talks about California, I will teach you this robust American love, right? And
mhm,
he's writing that in the 1850s, right? So this is after
mhm,
California's been acquired. This is when the 49ers are
mhm.
murdering everybody,
Right,
right? And he's talking about coming to
right,
California to teach everyone American love, to teach them how to be
right,
Americans, right? And what does that mean? That means lynching, that means bloodshed, that means killing. This time when
right.
California ranges are forming, they're chopping people's heads off and shit. And so
Yeah,
like that is what Walt Whitman represents to me, and that's not any different than Donald Trump. It represents the exact same thing. Now, it may
yep,
represent. I mean, you may have a world where these are the opposite end of poles, but I don't, and I don't have
yeah,
any reason to. And so that's why it's called mowing leaves of grass, even though it's mostly about Donald Trump or mostly about his supporters or mostly about this current political moment. Um, and not necessarily about like Whitman that much until the end. But I mean, that's why it's called mowing this grass because it's about like we don't need these people to teach us how to be smart. And I'm not even questioning the intelligence of some of these people. I'm not questioning whether they're smart or not. I'm not questioning
right,
whether they were talented, whether they were. I'm just saying like we're smart and talented too, and we can rely upon our own network and our own you know,
right.
series of connections and people that this one influenced that one, who influenced that one, who influenced that one, who influenced that one, and you can join that whole trajectory. You can be part of that chain. You can be, like let's say if everything's like, within let's say this concept of 7 generations. Well, let's say you're in this particular strain, you're generation 4, or you're generation 5, or you're 2, or you're 3, or you're 1, right? Like
Mhm,
seven generations of what, right? So like like you can be part of trajectory. You can be part of history. You can be a link in the chain of all kinds of things, and you can
mhm,
you know the thing before you, and the thing that will come after you, and you do not need Walt Whitman, you
mhm.
know, telling
Yeah.
telling you that like that you have nothing to do with the grand mission, you know.
Mhm. No, yeah, most definitely, man. Most definitely. Yeah. Yo, like I've been I for people that don't know, I mean, like we've had a pretty fluid conversation.
Yeah,
You would think that that we would have already had like 10, 12 conversations, but this is actually our first motherfucker.
yeah. For some reason,
Yeah,
like, yeah,
for real.
yeah,
Hey, so like let's make this a little bit more routine, man.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's make this a little bit more routine and whatnot, not just during quarantine and
yeah,
stuff. I'll give you my scathing review of mowing leaves of grass.
yeah. I'll block you.
Yeah.
Hey, nobody's above critique.
Not, hey,
Nobody
for
is above
real.
hearing their critique ignored either.
Yo, yo, my brother, my oldest brother, he's an asshole, but he's my asshole. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like he's a good asshole and shit. Like
yeah.
he's like, yo, man, I think everyone's entitled to my opinion. You know
I'll tell you what. You give me your honest opinion in my
what
inbox, and you give
I
me a glowing review on my
mean?
Facebook.
Yeah. Hey, motherfucker, you can't block me from Amazon, motherfucker.
Ah,
Ah!
yeah,
You don't
man.
got those kind. You don't those
Angel.
motherfuckers.
I don't got that kind of pull, man.
Yeah, I know those
You're
motherfuckers
an
hate
alliance
you.
with Basil,
Yeah,
so really, I
yeah.
should have known this Oxford-bound motherfucker.
Uh, hey, man. So I also you're doing lots of stuff, man. I know that your partner is too. She's doing incredible work as well.
Well,
You know what I mean?
right now, me and Karina are working on Telejaguar, which is
Right, right. I don't know if that was like if that's public for you to like to say that you're behind that and whatnot. But I was gonna mention Telejaguar.
okay.
That's a dope ass space, man.
Oh, thanks,
Like
man.
yeah, dude. Like it's getting some traction. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's going fast. But
It is.
me and Karina are behind that. But it's not just me and Karina. It's also Ernesto Ayala and
Mm-hmm.
Maria Flores.
Mm,
So there's two other members as well. So I want to
that's
make sure
cool.
that well, yeah, no, but we're really trying.
Shout out to them.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to make it to like it's where it's like a well-oiled machine. So we're still working out the kinks on
What's the seat? What's the angle?
what's the angle. Oh, the angle.
Yeah.
Okay, so the whole thing started. Well, because there's a prehistory to it, and then there's the whatever. So the whole thing really started with So the what comes before it is me and Ernesto when we were fighting against some social media influencers. And I'm not gonna name them right now, not because I'm scared to fight with them, but I just don't want to drag you into my bullshit. So then, like, so anyway, so I'm fighting with those people, and Ernesto's fighting with those people, and one of them talks some shit and says something like, "I was expecting these Chicano bros in Jaguar suits." So then, like, the way I am, like, like Chicano bros in Jaguar suits, so everything became way of the Jaguar, way of the Jaguar, way of the Jaguar, way of the Jaguar, right? And it was basically all these kind of like little details about like how you fight like a Jaguar, and then like kind of we were throwing around ideas to start our own social media thing, and then and so kind of tell how we kind of like came into like thought and being, right? But then, me and Karina, we our relationship was pretty new, and we were still getting together, and we were talking about, okay, like you got this idea to El Jaguar, and then all of a sudden, she set up all like the website, the Facebook group, the this, that, the other, and so she was actually really, really instrumental, more than really any of us, in like getting the ball off the ground and like posting every day and doing all the things you need to do to grow a page, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really her. And then Maria came on board, and Maria's writing articles, and we're all writing articles. We're all write articles, and so but she's now in the rotation of writing articles and like kind of like going out talking to the people in the local struggles in LA. So it's kind of like everyone's still kind of finding their niche, right, for this thing to. I mean, it's been going on a month and it's going well. I mean, it's going really well, but like doing well is never my intention, right? I don't ever intend to do well. I intend to do great, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so like we're gonna make this thing great. And so for it to be and not a Trump way, but I mean you make this thing like, like make this thing something that we can all really that can reach a lot of people, and can be really something, a platform that can inspire a lot of people. A big part of it is we want to like highlight people. We don't want to just like make it about us. We want to highlight others and people in the community that like can be kind of like people who have a more material reading of things, people who have a reading of things that look at the world and like look at its problems and want to solve its problems, as opposed to um, try to describe the problem with the way you describe the problem, and the problem is
Mm-hmm.
you, right? We don't want to deal with the
Mm-hmm.
problem. We're like, all right, here's the general problem. We
Yeah,
kind of
platitudes.
yeah, a lot of platitudes
A
and a
lot of
lot
platitudes.
a lot of like kind of like platitudes, a lot of the quest to coin a phrase and make a career out of it, like that kind of stuff. That aspect of academia, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
One is people who like want to like who want to fight the power, who want to change the world, right? And we want to like highlight those people. That's why we had the 5 question series, which kind of fallen off because Corona, because this, because that. But like and maybe a little bit of a lack of organization, which kind of falls upon me because I'm supposed to be the one to do some of that stuff. But overall, I mean, the organization overall, it's going good, and it's only getting better, and it's only going to get better.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. Yo, well, congrats on the book. Congrats on Telehagua to you and the rest of the team.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Like I this is a school night for me.
Yeah.
Hey, no. But let's do this again for real. I also wanted to say one thing. I would be I don't think I would feel complete if I didn't say that to shout out to everybody that's currently in the front lines fighting for justice against police brutality and murder. Recently 25-year-old, I think his name, and I might be butchering his name, my apologies, Ahmed Arbery, jogger that was followed by 2 white supremacists and murdered, shot cold-blooded by these 2 white supremacists. Do you hear about that, Matt?
No.
Bro, that's just going viral, man. That video is going viral.
Are you talking about the one that they asked him to put the mask on and he got shot, or is that a different one? Because somebody got people getting shot. Geez.
No. So the guy with the KKK hat, that happened here in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, the KKK hood motherfucker, that shit happened here in San Diego. And then like another girl at the beach for walking her dog. You know what I mean? Like she got fucking like hella like harassed by the police and shit, brutalized and whatnot. Nah, man, but these are two white supremacists, but one dude is a former police officer, ex chief of police and whatnot, like best friends with the DA. I think this was in Georgia. And this was actually caught on video because they were actually hunting for this fool. They went out hunting for black people, man. And the person that was in the back car, right, the second car, this idiot, okay, this idiot fucking Klansman had his fucking camera rolling, right? And somehow, right, this video that was always out there, right, got released to the victim's lawyer, like through some online shit, right? So like their own video, right, the own clan's video that they took, right, is now the main piece of evidence against them in this case.
Yeah.
Because before all this, right, without the video, before all this, their line of defense, right, they're out in the streets, man. There's not even a charge against them currently, because their line of defense was, this black man came in, attacked me, right? I was in self-defense, shot the motherfucker, bam, right? Like another crazy black man, right? And if it wasn't for this video, that would be still the main story. But this video, man, it's horrible, dude. It's traumatic. I am sure for many. Um, and you know, it's just another fucking episode of what we already know to be true, man, about this country. You know, they're not isolated cases, right? It's just part of the equation of this country as
Yeah.
to how this country breathes, right? It breathes through the blood of black and brown folk, right? Um, and so to me, right, it's important that we're seeking justice for all those people, for all the people in prison, currently that we're demanding for the end of prisons. um, and these demands, man, I think we understand that this system's not going to give it to us, right? But these demands are important for us to keep on the forefront, because that's, I think, at the end of the day, what grants us that revolutionary spirit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To keep us going. Uh, so with that, bro, I want to say peace out, homie.
Good having.
Yeah, dog.